numbers 16 through 19 tell us to just evaluate. So we're simply going to simplify our expressions here until we get to one final answer. So number 16, 18, and actually 19, we're going to use order of operations. So I'm going to write PEMDAS up here so I don't forget. PEMDAS. Using those order of operations are very important. So then we're going to look at number 16, 3 1/5 minus negative 7 halves plus a negative 1. So I automatically see these two negative signs together. That makes a positive. And I also notice that I have a mixed number. I'm going to make that into an improper fraction by using my big C method. So I'm going to have 16/5 plus 7 halves plus, and I'm going to change this negative 1 into a fraction by just putting it over 1. Negative 1 over 1. Now, I'm adding fractions here, so I'm going to have a common denominator. If I look at these three denominators, 5, 2, and 1, I'm going to see that my common denominator will be 10. So I'm going to multiply first fraction, numerator and denominator by 2. Second fraction, numerator and denominator by 5. And third fraction, numerator and denominator by 10. So I will have 32 tenths plus 35 tenths plus negative 10 over 10. So now I have all common denominators. I can combine my numerators, and I will have 32 plus 35 plus negative 10 over 10. When I add up those numerators, I'm going to have 57, a positive 57. I have two positive numbers, and then I'm going to subtract 10 at the end, so that's where I get my 57 from, over 10. And I want to simplify that and make it back into a mixed number. 10 goes into 57 5 times, with 7 left over, so I have 5 and 7 tenths. Number 17 is only a division problem, but we do have some decimals here. So when I set this up, when I first look, I'm going to realize my first number here is positive, my second number here is negative, so my answer is going to be negative, so I'm going to write negative off to the side so I remember. Now I'm going to set this up like a regular division problem. 2.16 as my divisor, 7.452 as my dividend. Now my divisor has to be a whole number, so I have to swoop my decimal to the right until this becomes a whole number. So I'm going to swoop it once, twice. Whatever I do to the outside number, I'm going to have to do to the inside. I'm going to bring that decimal straight up there. So I'm looking at 216. How many times does that 216 go into 745.2? Here, 216 goes into 745 3 times. That'll be 648. When I subtract that, I will have 97 left over. Bring down my 2. 216 goes into 972 4 times. 4 times 216 is 864. Subtract that. I'll get 108. I'll need to bring my 0 down again. Add that 0, 1080. And 216 goes to 1080 5 times evenly, so I get 1080 here. And I'm left with no remainder. Now remember, I decided my answer will be negative, so my final answer here should be negative 3 45/100ths. And I'll box that answer there. For number 18, I have negative 3/2 squared minus 1/3 times 3 1/2. So first, I'm going to rewrite this underneath this squared. That just means my number in parentheses here, so that negative 3/2 multiplied by itself. So I have negative 3/2 times negative 3/2 minus 1/3 times, and I'm going to change this into an improper fraction, 7/2. So here I have two multiplication pieces. I have to do that first, and then I'll find a common denominator. So negative 3/2 times negative 3/2 is 9/4 minus, when I multiply 1/3 by 7/2, I get 7/6. So now I need to find a common denominator. Here will be 12. So I'm going to multiply numerator and denominator of my first fraction by 3, second fraction by 2, and I'll end up with 27 over 12 minus 14 over 12. So I take 27 minus 14 over 12. And when I simplify that, or when I actually evaluate my numerator, it'll be 13/12, which when I simplify is 1 and 1/12. That's my final answer there. Number 19, I have 1/10 times 10, negative 10 and 5/10 minus 4.76. So I first do my multiplication first. When I multiply my two decimals here, I get negative 1.05. And I'm going to carry down what I haven't used, which is subtracting 4 and 76 hundredths. So really what this looks like is negative 1 and 5 hundredths plus negative 4 and 76 hundredths. So if I combine these two decimals together, I'm going to add them together and use the sign since they have same signs. Think our integer rules. I'll get negative 5 and 81 hundredths. Okay, last page. We have some word problems we're going to work on. Our first, number 20, says that the table shows the changes in rainfall in inches from the monthly average of 4 months. What is the mean change? Remember, mean. That's finding, you add up all the amount of numbers you have and then divide by the amount of numbers that you have. So we have 4 numbers here. We're going to add them all up and we're going to divide that sum by 4. So when I add up 1.05 plus negative 0.58 plus negative 2.12 plus negative 2.67, I take that sum, divide by 4. When I add all of that up, my numerator should be negative 4 and 32 hundredths. I'm still dividing that by 4. Now when I actually found my sum for my numerator, I combined all my negatives first, and then I only had one positive, so I was able to find the difference there. I knew my numerator should be negative because I have more negatives than positives here. So when I simplify this answer, I end up getting negative 1.08, and in this context, what's the mean change? I put negative 1.08 inches is the mean change. Since we are talking about the amount of rainfall in inches, we need to make sure inches is there. Number 21, we're looking for cups of sugar. So we need to find if we have enough sugar for a recipe. So we have 2 1/3 cup, but I need 2 1/2, so I'm going to see if I have enough here. So let's see, I need to compare these two, so I'm going to change 2 1/2 and 2 1/3 to have a common denominator, and here it'll be 6, so 2 3/6 is what we need, and 2 2/6 is what we have. So do we have enough? No, we don't have enough. So how much do we need? Well, 2 3/6 minus 2 2/6, we end up needing 1/6. So we would write, you need 1/6 cup of sugar. And we are done there. Remember, we were talking about cups and sugar, so we need to use that when we are actually writing our answer here. Number 22 says a 10.5 gallon aquarium is 2/3 full. How many more gallons of water does it take to fill the aquarium? So let's see here. We're going to take 10.5. That's how many gallons that aquarium can have. And I'm going to multiply it by 2/3. So since this is a whole number, I'm going to, for right now, put this over 1. So I can see that here when I multiply across, I end up getting 21 over 3, which when I simplify is 7. So right now, my aquarium holds 7 gallons. But I want to find out how many more gallons of water it's going to take. So I take that 7 and I subtract it from the original 10.5 that my aquarium can actually hold. And I end up here getting 3.5. So we would write 3.5 gallons more of water to fill the tank. And if we think about this, our aquarium is already 2/3 full, so it's more than halfway full. So how many more gallons we need should be less than how much is already in there. And when we combine those two, so I got this 7 here and this 3.5 together, it should equal the original 10.5, which in this case it does. So going back and making sure that our answer makes sense is really important here. Now our last problem says how many 45.45 ounce packages of cinnamon can be made with 3.15 ounces of cinnamon. So we know we have 3.15 ounces of cinnamon, and we're going to make 0.45 ounce packages. So how many of those? We were actually going to end up using division. So I want to do 3.15 divided by 0.45. And this is going to tell me how many ounce packages I can have. So 0.45 or 45 hundredths will be my divisor. My dividend will be 3.15 or 3 and 15 hundredths. Remember, our divisor always has to be a whole number. So we're going to swoop our decimal twice in both of these. Bring my decimal back up. 45 can't go into 31, but it can go into 315. Here it ends up going in 7 times. 7 times 45 is 315. Now you may have to do a little guess and check here, but it ends up being 7 with no remainder. So we can make 7 0.45 ounce packages of cinnamon. Now, before we move on, I do want to show you guys when we get to this point, if we say 7, that's saying that each package will have 0.45 ounces of cinnamon. And if we can make exactly 7, then we should be able to go back and take 0.45, multiply it by 7, and get our original 3.15. So 7 times 5 is 35, carry that 3, 28, 29, 30, 31. 7 times 0 is 7, plus 3 is 3. We have 2 numbers behind the decimal. So we'd get 3.15. So I just went back very quickly and checked to make sure that that answer is correct. So 7.45 ounce packages of cinnamon here is correct. This is the end of our review. Make sure you correct any problems that you made mistakes. Grade it in pen, please, and good luck on your test.